And Jehovah God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul. And Jehovah God planted a garden eastward, in Eden. And there he put the man whom he had formed. Genesis chapter 2 verses 7 and 8.
The Bible tells us the Garden of Eden was the intended habitat for man. Because of the original sin of Adam and Eve, they were cast out. This story is known throughout the world, but the story is told in Genesis chapter 6 is only known by a few. Now they have to survive in a hostile environment. Little did they know how hostile it would become. The reign of the Nephilim started around the time of the patriarch Jared, the sixth generation from Adam. The very angels entrusted to help man now conspired against him. The angel Satan was always incensed and jealous of Adam and refused to pay him homage. Now a group of conspiring angels mated with earthly women, and these women bore the Nephilim. God's creation became an abomination. As we have already heard, these giants were bloodthirsty and made themselves to be gods. The Book of Giants, written by Enoch, reveals part of the story and elaborates on the exploits of the giants, especially the two children of Shemi-Haza, Oya and Heya. Since no complete manuscript exists of the giants, the exact contents and order remain a matter of guesswork. Most of the content of the present fragments concerns the giants' ominous dreams and Enoch's efforts to interpret them, and to intercede with God on the giants' behalf. The Book of Giants, like the Book of Enoch, tells us how the Nephilim altered the DNA of animals and man, creating all sorts of monsters. The Greek myths of the Minotaur, Satyr, and Centaur take on new and more realistic perspective. There are scholars who now believe the dinosaurs are the result of this genetic manipulation. I believe it to be the best explanation of all the theories I've considered. There are many aspects of the dinosaurs that just do not fit into the scheme of this world. As I already mentioned, some scholars believe certain dinosaurs were created by God, based on the verses in the book of Job. I admit it's possible, but I'm still not convinced. We now have an overall picture of the time period. Since the time of Jared, the sixth generation from Adam, humans and animals were now subjected to the will of the fallen angels, the Nephilim giants, and their hybrid monsters. There is new evidence indicating that man was indeed walking with dinosaurs. This entire century, we've been told that dinosaurs existed millions of years ago and became extinct before the arrival of man. I find these theories, which are based on Darwin's theory of evolution, absurd and shameful. Scientists and educators have gone to great lengths to keep out the creation story from schools throughout the United States. The public educational system's use of separation of church and state is exactly what our forefathers were trying to prevent: governmental dictation. It was never intended to separate God from government. The founders wanted to preclude what they experienced in Britain, where the government created a single domination to the exclusion of all others. There is corruption in our educational system's agenda and their selected scientific methods. In the end, they did not keep out religion in schools. They replaced Christianity with their own substitute, the theory of evolution. That's right, the theory of evolution is indeed a religion, with man in charge of his own destiny. Most scientists are now concluding that Darwin's theory does not stand up to modern biological standards. Now that we are able to see and understand the complexity of a single-cell organism, which Darwin could not, we know he was wrong. There is a petition signed by 600 professors from the top universities throughout the United States to stop teaching Darwin's theories.
In the 19th century, when Darwin was alive, scientists thought that the basis of life, the cell, was some simple glob of protoplasm, like a little piece of jello or something that was not hard to explain at all. But with the hard work of science in the 20th century, we've seen that the cell is far from simple. It's got very complicated molecular machines and things that are very resistant to Darwinian explanation.
Scientists will tell you if evidence is contaminated, then carbon dating will be wildly inaccurate. If you accept the flood theory, then everything was underwater for a year. there is no doubt the evidence before the flood is contaminated. This leaves us with no accurate date. However, there is evidence of man walking with dinosaurs.
My reaction was one of shock. I had heard of human footprints being found in this locale on the Biloxi near Glen Rose, Texas, but I was rather skeptical. And here, after removing actual rock layers, the team and I excavated a series of dinosaur footprints. And 18½ inches from one of those dinosaur footprints, we excavated a 16-inch human footprint. We excavated 12 footprints in a series. And when you find a trail with left, right pace and strike, the right distance apart, then you have to interpret this as belonging to humankind. We found trails leading under limestone ledges and actually removed the limestone ledges one slab of rock at a time. And we found that both the dinosaur footprint and the trail of human footprints continued under the rock ledges. This evidence is real.
I first saw the Burdick print on my initial visit to Glen Rose in 1984. My impression at that time was that it was too perfect. But it's clearly a human footprint demonstrating the heel section, the arch, the base of the metatarsals, the first or great toe, second, third, fourth, and fifth toe.
After our examination of this print, we find that it definitely is in the Cretaceous limestone, in the same formation with the dinosaur footprints. Here we're looking at a cross-section, and we can see very obvious following contours under the great toe, and actually structures under each one. Where we see the calcite inclusion, the force was concentrated and produced these load-bearing structures, which are exactly what geologists look for. We have eliminated the idea that it's carved. It definitely is original impression in the sediment.
This is said to be a fossilized finger of a human being. It was found in the same strata as the dinosaur tracks.
It had what appeared to be a nail, what appeared to be a cuticle, a taper, a humanoid shape. After I saw the CAT scan, there was no longer any room in my mind for doubt. This scan shows the shape of the finger, it shows tissue beneath the skin of the finger, it shows the bone, it shows the joints, it shows a ligament. That tells me this is a human finger.
As I said, over the past 150 years, these archaeologists and anthropologists have covered up as much evidence as they've dug up, literally.
Basically what you find is something we call a knowledge filter. This is a fundamental feature of science. It's also a fundamental feature of human nature. People tend to filter out things that don't fit, that don't make sense in terms of their paradigm or their way of thinking. So in science you find that evidence that doesn't fit the accepted paradigm tends to be eliminated. It's not taught, it's not discussed, and people who are educated in scientific teachings generally don't even learn about it.
Carbon dating can be highly inaccurate for dating archaeological artifacts. It's not just that it can be inaccurate, it's worse than that. There are numerous cases in the past where items have been carbon dated and found outrageously wrong. Does carbon dating work at all? Despite its problems, the underlying ideas are sound, and scientists are pursuing the reasons why carbon dating can be so inaccurate. There are reasons for the problems. The first one is contamination. If an archaeological artifact is contaminated, then you have no scientific method to calculate it. Another reason is the level of carbon in the atmosphere at the time. It's my personal belief one of the ways life was reduced in years and size was the altering of the atmosphere by the hand of God. So the ratio of carbon-12 and carbon-14 before the flood was completely different. There are many details which scientists presume were taking place. They are only guessing. Many scientists give off an illusion of knowledge as if it were true. If you say something long and loud enough, society will accept it. Do not believe this illusion. Carbon dating has a 10,000-year limit. Anything after that can be highly inaccurate. The Great Flood covered the Earth for an entire year and contaminated everything. It's my belief the flood took place approximately 12,000 years ago, what historians refer to as the end of the Ice Age. It seems appropriate that carbon dating would only be accurate until the time of the flood.